Hello, my name is Han-Tyumi. You are listening to Polygon Infinity, the podcast that opens the door to all things King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. Episode 50, Murder of the Universe, Part 1, with your hosts, Joe and Spenser. Welcome to an altered podcast.
What's up, Weirdo Swarm, and welcome back to another episode of Polygon Infinity. Back at it with a proper album discussion. It's been a little while. This is, I don't know if it arguably what we do best, some might say, but certainly the real meat and potatoes of this show. We're excited to get back to another album discussion here. My name is Joe.
And my name is Han-Tyumi. I am a Boogie.
Oh no, the bit begins already.
The bit begins, man.
The bit's starting early.
You gotta get it out of the way early, at least. Hey, dude, episode 50, by the way. Hello.
Yeah,
celebration.
Woo.
Yeah, woo.
Oh my gosh, 50 episodes. That's pretty crazy. We should have actually had more of them done by now. Well, if we stuck with our original release schedule of doing a show every week. It's been almost 2 years now that we've been doing the show. It was July of 24 that we started.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm glad that we went on to the 2-week release schedule. I think it lets us put a little more time into these, and honestly, we probably should have done that sooner to spread out these albums a bit and keep it lasting longer. But we'll see. We got other stuff we'll be able to talk about. But for today, this is a discussion on technically one of two albums that we haven't done our full discussion on yet, because we haven't done a full deep dive on Phantom Island. We just did a reaction episode when it was new last summer. So, yeah, but out of all of the back catalog of Giz stuff, this is the last one. I'm so excited to be doing this again and to cover this big chunky boy of a record here.
Big chunky boy. Hey, there's an episode title option
yeah,
for you.
Maybe.
But yeah, man, Murder of the Universe, soon to celebrate its 10th birthday, coming up next summer. Just celebrated its 9th anniversary as we sit here in early July.
Mm-hmm.
But it was kind of unintentional that we saved this one for last, at least for the ones we haven't touched in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
But it seemed appropriate at the same time because this is so lore-heavy, so narrative-driven. It just feels like one of those big, legendary albums that you have to build up to. And so it kind of fit as the last one.
We felt the same way about doing Polygon Dwanaland. You know, we pushed that one off for as long as we could, and for whatever reason, this one ended up getting the same kind of treatment, getting pushed even later as being our last album discussion for now, till we're ready to, dive deeper into Phantom Island, and then hopefully by then there'll be, 5 new Giz albums that will, keep us busy after that. I don't know.
Yeah, there are at least 2 in the works right now that we know of, supposedly.
Supposedly.
So time will tell this summer. Anyway, before we go any further, a little reminder, if you're not already, please give us a follow if you feel so inclined on all of our socials. We're on Facebook, X, and Instagram, and Bluesky, most active on the latter 2 of those, at Polygon Infinity on all of those socials. You can also email us if you prefer at polygoninfinity@gmail.com. We don't have any listener messages or comments in just sort of a general sense. The only comments that we got were kind of responding to our prompt earlier this week for, what do you think of this album, or what questions do you have for us regarding this album? We'll get to those a little bit after our track by track. So, Joe, you want to get into the background here of Murder of the Universe?
Yeah, let's do it. So, like I said, this here is a chunky one, and this episode, we are recording the whole thing at once, but it may end up being split up into a 2-parter, and you will know by the episode title. If it says part 1, then there's a second one coming soon after, but yeah, there's a lot to get into here. General description of the sound of this album. It is dark, it is gritty, it is noisy, and it is certainly heavy, and it returns to a lot of the sort of stylings and sounds that came from records like specifically Nonagon Infinity. There's a lot of connection there with sort of the overall sound and gritty nature of it. Lots of squealing guitar feedback and all that good stuff that you know and love by now. But there's also some other instrumentation that maybe separates it a little bit. There's quite a bit more synthesizer use, and also mellotron that appears a lot, and especially with that kind of vocalization sound that they use a lot. It sounds like a choir singing together, but that's just an instrument on the mellotron. On top of the sound of it, this album is also just incredibly rich with fantasy, sci-fi storytelling, both in the lyrics that are sung by Stu and the narration by fellow Aussie musician Leah Senior that appears throughout this record. In fact, she does a lot of narration on 2/3 of the album.
Yeah, so Leah Senior, who, by the way, has a beautiful voice and was a fantastic choice to serve the narrator's role on 2/3 of this album. Leah and Stu are the only two human voices that you will hear on this record. There are, of course, the two fake voices, generated voices, I guess.
Voices,
Text-to-speech.
characters.
There you go. Yep. Han-Tyumi and the Munt Machine, who we'll get to later.
Who makes a brief appearance in one track, yeah.
Yeah, brief little cameo there, but this is just kind of going beyond the soundscape and the instrumentation. In some more general facts here, this is the second of the 5 albums released in that magical year of 2017, where Giz was kind of entering, if you will, their own altered future, in a way. They had just released Nonagon the previous year. That kind of put them on the map internationally a little bit more than previous releases. 2017, they dropped 5 albums, and people started to take notice. Rattlesnake was a huge single earlier that year. By the way, Flying Microtonal Banana was the only album that dropped prior to this one in 2017.
Right, that was the first record of 17, first of the 5.
Yeah.
And then this one.
Yeah, and then Murder in the Universe is, depending on which way you look at it, either the second or the third quote-unquote Gizverse album. Nonagon certainly in there, but arguably Mind Fuzz. Some might make the case.
Yeah.
That one's more in an instrumentation sense. There are no recurring characters from Mind Fuzz.
Right.
And maybe in the album artwork, too.
Yeah, we're certainly aware of the connections in the album artwork between Mind Fuzz and Nonagon, having those kind of rocky cliffs in the background and stuff like that. There's a lot of similarities to the two of them, and some musical motifs that appear here and there. There's actually a particular track on this album later on that we won't get to for a bit, but that makes reference to that main Mind Fuzz, I'm in Your Mind riff. And so that'll be fun to get to when we get there. But yeah, there's actually quite a handful of little cameos of previous motifs from Nonagon and Mind Fuzz, and maybe even some older songs as well. At least one I could think of off the top of my head that makes a little appearance later on. So that'll be fun to touch on as we get there. This album is broken up into 3 chapters or suites, whatever you want to call them. Essentially, there are 3 different stories being told within this one album. First, the tale of the altered beast, then the Lord of Lightning versus Balrog, and finally Han-Tyumi and the murder of the universe. I mentioned Leah Senior narrating on 2/3 of this album. She appears on those first 2 suites, and then the final one is when we get introduced to our new narrator at the end there. I referred to this album as being quite chunky, and not only just in the density of the storytelling that's happening, but there's a lot of tracks, 21 tracks, but overall has a pretty normal album runtime of just 46 minutes, since many of the songs are very short or just kind of serve as like little transitional tracks and little storytelling elements without a big, long, full-length song attached to them.
Yeah, that 21 tracks is easily the longest of any KGLW studio album. And so I want to just kind of encourage any newer Giz heads that may be listening and you haven't gotten into this album yet. Don't let that daunt you because of what Joe just said. The total runtime is just 46 minutes and change on this. And also, as you mentioned, Joe, split up into 3 different stories. So if you want to kind of take it chunk by chunk, you can certainly do that. Or if you're feeling ambitious, go for the full Monty. Just dive in headfirst to all of them at the same time. But, this is not your typical kind of prog rock sci-fi, like you have to set aside an hour and 15 minutes of your day to kind of focus and lock in. Broken up a little bit into more easily digestible chunks. And you don't need to... you don't need to stuff your brain so full, so to speak, and you're not at risk of vomiting like somebody at the end of this album was at risk of.
Yes. And I was going to say, they actually do have longer albums as far as runtime goes. This one's the most tracks, but Omnium Gatherum, 16 tracks, comes out to an hour and 20 minutes, thanks in part to the 18-minute long opener on that one. And and I think Ice Death is also around an hour long as well in its total runtime. A little over an hour,
I believe.
And that one's only, 7 tracks, right? And that's, so that's 7 big ass long intricate songs. So this one shouldn't be too scary or intimidating for that reason.
Interestingly enough, despite the unique format, this album was nominated for Best Hard Rock or Heavy Metal Album at the 2017 ARIA Music Awards, despite controversy the previous year with Nonagon's win of that same award. And there's a link that I'll put in the show notes here from the Australian outlet Tone Deaf that it really talks about like a few Australian musicians and bands kind of being frustrated, and they're not getting personal toward Giz about it, but just kind of being like, hey, like what? This is not a heavy metal album. Like, how did you shoehorn it into this genre? But and I mean, that's Giz for you. They're hard to kind of put in a certain box, based on what genre they play. But understandable those fellow musicians would have been frustrated. But hey, good on Giz for like putting their stamp on the music scene there in Australia with this one and getting such recognition for an album that I think would be really hard for a lot of the general public to accept. Like something so story driven like this.
So weird and story driven and just unlike any normal kind of what you would think of as a popular album to win an award like that.
Yeah.
A couple other things I want to mention just as some background as we work our way towards getting into the track by track. As far as credits go, the lyrics and stories are entirely written by Stu, with the exception of just the final track, Murder of the Universe, which also credits Joey with some writing on that. I was taking a look at the copy of this album that I own on vinyl, and I noticed also in the credits on the back of the record that Eric is only credited as management, so I guess he's not doing any drumming, any actual percussion, even though he played with them live and would play these songs. That leads me to believe that Cavs is the one doing all of the drums on this one. Even some moments where you hear like multiple kits kind of happening at once, I assume he just kind of dubbed over it, did multiple kind of drum tracks and stuff. So it seems to just be him. And speaking of the vinyl that I own of this record, I just want to mention this because I think it's so cool. I have the Cosmic Carnage edition of the vinyl, which is this really sick black and red splattered variant, and each of the 3 suites takes up a full side of the 2 LPs that are included with it. But since there are 3 suites and 4 total sides between the 2 records, the backside of the second record actually just has a little design etched into it. It's a bunch of little Giz gators etched going around in a circle around the back of the record. But instead of the normal kind of happy looking one like from the River video, they all have angry eyebrows, like they're evil gators. So I just think that's so sick. I don't really see that evil gator design pop up anywhere else. And I was so just pleasantly surprised when I bought that copy of it, probably maybe like 2 years ago or something at a local record store. And I'm looking at the vinyl and I pull out the other one and I'm like, oh, that's so cool. So yeah, I don't know. I probably wouldn't like frame it or anything because then I wouldn't be able to play the album if I wanted to. But I think it's just a fun little thing that's hidden in there that I can appreciate.
Very cool.
I also want to touch here on music videos because rather than the traditional way of doing it, taking your couple singles or just a couple random tracks that you want to make a video for and putting them out, the band attempted to make entire long music videos, 3 of them for each suite. So having an entire suite have its own video with all of the songs of that section included. They were successful with this for 2 of the 3 sections. For whatever reason, the Altered Beast one did not get finished. They didn't have time or something happened for whatever reason, but the Lord of Lightning Balrog section and the Han-Tyumi section each have full music videos that cover that entire suite, every song from that suite. Even though the Altered Beast section didn't get its full music video, there was actually a little bit of footage that was originally planned for that they ended up using in some promotional material for the album titled A Brief History of Planet Earth. It was kind of just a little teaser like they normally put out where it shows a little bit of them in the studio working on the songs and, whatever goofy other little footage they put in there with it. So there's a little bit of footage at the beginning of that was originally intended for part of the Altered Beast video.
You're suggesting they may have run out of time to make that third video? What, were they? Wasn't like they're trying to put out 5 albums in a year or anything
Right.
Oh, wait.
It's not like they were putting out 6 albums in 1 year. Like, come on, you guys got plenty of time.
Yeah,
It's only 5.
It's only 5. Okay, before we get into the track by track, I think, Joe, one final thing here we want to touch on the album artwork, which is cuckoo bananas in a word, and, well, in a couple of words. But this looks like, I don't know, part watercolor painting, part oil painting. I don't know what materials exactly Jason Galea used on it, but it is, of course, a Jason Galea original, and it depicts a lot of stuff. You see kind of in the foreground in the center, these stone steps that are leading up to kind of these craggy cliffs and mountain peaks that you saw from a different vantage point on the Mind Fuzz album cover, and that recur elsewhere, like Nodding on Infinity. And then you also see these kind of mystical, like, features and ghostly figures. There's kind of one on the left side. It looks like a ghostly face that's kind of appearing in the middle left. There are these
invisible face, maybe
invisible face, perhaps. There are these things that look like kind of gnarled monster hands with claws reaching across the cliffs. There's like smoke and mist. It's all very dark and mysterious looking, and overall just an accurate representation of the soundscape and the stories that you're going to encounter when you put this album on.
Yeah, it's similarly abstract to the way that the Polygon Dwanaland album cover is, where it's like all these shapes and geometry and playing with like perspective and all this different kind of stuff. It's like kind of like you took something like that, but then threw a mutant puke creature on top of it. I mean, that's all you could think of, right? Is this has to be just a reference to the Han-Tyumi puke at the end of the album, spoiler alert, destroying the universe. I guess that's what they're depicting here. I've tried to stare at this and see if there are any elements of the Polygon Dwanaland album cover, because there's like some shapes, there's like what looks like steps and things, and I'm wondering, is that potentially a castle, because there is a reference to Crumbling Castle in that song at the end. Castles crumble and I munch the rubble. So maybe it's a reference to that. Kind of these spikes and stuff that are in the foreground remind me of like that jagged cliff from the Mind Fuzz cover, and also Nonagon. It's in the background of Nonagon. So I don't know. I think there's just some elements of some little references to different things, but then also just this super surreal, abstract, puke-colored monster thing going on. And I think this album cover looks like what the album sounds like. Absolutely. I think it is so appropriate, and Jason is just incredible. He's able to work in such a surreal, weird kind of way, but make it so perfect for the music. I just love it.
Okay, so a lot of backstory, a lot of kind of fact sharing and deep dive in the research. I mean, trust me, that's kind of like just a snippet of what we both had to dive into to make sure we were fully prepared for this episode. Joe, let's start digging into the track by track on this album that the great Anthony Fantano has called post-audiobook genre. The first track is A New World.
As soon as the dust settles, you can see a new world in place of where the old one had been.
A New World, a wonderful title for the beginning of this album, setting the stage for all the darkness and horror to come. This is the very first third of the album. This is technically the opener that sets the stage for the Tale of the Altered Beast. So this is just a nice little short and sweet introduction that perfectly gets us in the mood for what's to come. Opens with these layers of dark, eerie synthesizers that are shortly joined by some clean guitars, although they don't stay very clean for long. Even though this is the introduction to the Altered Beast suite, I also think it's just a great intro to the album in general. It really does a great job of setting the eerie, kind of horror, sci-fi mood so well.
Yeah, kind of those low synthesizer squelches, and then followed by those three kind of eerie stabs. Like that's where the goosebumps start to raise on your arms. In fact, I'm getting the goosebumps right now just talking about it. I listened to a little snippet off mic, and it's just such a powerful opener with Leah Sr.'s narration over the top of it. And also, if you're wearing a solid pair of headphones, you can notice how those first synth sounds kind of establish themselves in the left channel and then gradually migrate over to the right channel before it all fills in all across. And it really kind of gives you the sense that you're being dropped into this world. You're being surrounded by this scene and puts you into this creepy place.
Yes, it certainly does. So after a little bit of this slow intro, we hear Leah's narration, which I could just jump right into and go ahead and read the whole thing because it's not super long. I'm not going to be able to do that for every song because some of them are really, really big. But for this one, just to set the stage, I'll go ahead and read it. So just 9 seconds into the song, Leah Sr. begins her narration. I'm not going to try to do the accent or anything. I'm just going to read it straight up. As soon as the dust settles, you can see a new world in place of where the old one had been. Your skin is crawling with dry, crusted mud, and your naked feet are wet in a pool of your blood. And the whistle of the wind in your ears is so loud that your memories have blown up in a mushroom cloud. I just want to point out when she says whistle of the wind and that high-pitched synth goes up and you hear it rising in the music.
And the whistle of the wind in your ears is so loud that your memories have blown up in a mushroom cloud.
And as your eyes accommodate, there appears by the meadow a brute like a bear with a long dark shadow, and you violently shake over what you have seen as you remembered the tale of the altered beast. Okay, so that sets the stage. That's pretty much it. She's talking to you, the listener, directly, as if you're the character in the story, and the narration kind of changes perspective a bit throughout whole album. It's kind of interesting. Yeah. It starts off talking to you, and actually during this whole suite, it's kind of like speaking directly to you, like you're the character in the story, but then Stu's singing voice is the voice of the character that this thing is happening to. So it's kind of interesting, and the singing and the narration perspective will change a bit throughout the album as we go on. But essentially, she's just introducing our main character, who wakes up covered in mud and their own blood, confused, not remembering what happened or where they are or what's going on, until they, or you that she's talking to, sees this horrible beast in the distance, and the story continues from there. I just want to point out the moment in the song where things really explode and the energy picks up. About halfway through her narration, 37 seconds in, is where there's a big crash hit from Cavs. He starts hitting the hi-hat, building up. The dirty, electric guitars come in.
That your memories have blown up in a mushroom cloud. And as your eyes accommodate, there appears by the meadow a brute like a bear with a long, dark shadow. And you violently shake over what you have seen as you remember the tale of the altered beast.
And the song continues to just build and build into the transition into the real first Altered Beast track. And it just gets fast and fast and fast at the end as she's finishing her last kind of sentence of the narration. And there's just a big, just big build into the next track. And it's such a good intro. It hypes you up so much. Like you said, you get goosebumps a little bit. It's, man, even though this album is 3 separate stories, I really do love when I'm in the right mood just putting the whole damn thing on. It's hard to leave out any little parts of it because the way everything flows and builds from one track to another is so satisfying.
Yeah, and real quick, I want to point out, too, that moment where everything kind of explodes on this opening track comes right after Leah says that your memories have blown up in a mushroom cloud. That's great composition there. She says the words mushroom cloud, and that's where that big strike happens. Bam, bam. I probably clipped really badly there, but
I don't think you did. It looks all right.
appropriate to the whole
this
feel,
whole episode, I should just have the gain turned way up so our voices are clipping and all gritty and nasty, just like the album.
Oh God! But hey, for a track that's under a minute long and actually doesn't technically contain any singing, just narration, a lot to enjoy here.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You can't listen to any of the Altered Beast suite without this to open it up. All right, so with that, let's move right into it. Let's flow right into the first official titled Altered Beast track. This is Altered Beast 1.
I think I see an altered beast by the tree.
So that kind of clean guitar, palm muted picking, that rhythmic picking that closes out the opening track, that flows cleanly into track 2 here, Altered Beast 1. And if you're newer to this album, you'll notice that the Altered Beast and Alter Me tracks kind of alternate 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, all the way up to Altered Beast 4, where it stops.
Yeah.
And so this really kind of sets the tone for the rest of the suite. Just kind of this driving, relentless pace to it. Certainly some krautrock influence in the rhythm section there, as Cavs is thrashing on the drums. And this also establishes some mainstays for the suite as far as keyboards emulating Stu's vocals. There's maybe a little effect there on Stu's vocals as he sings. Yeah, it's almost like an audio version of words on a page being outlined. That's the way I like to think of it. And it's almost like Stu is not just this simple human voice. It's like he's being possessed by something as he's singing all this, which is so appropriate because he spies this altered beast from far away, and it's creeping him the fuck out. I want to, before we go further, I want to say that Altered Beast, I don't recall there being a point where Stu or the band said, we totally, like, copied or drew influence from the video game, but it is the name of a 1988 Sega arcade beat-em-up type game.
That was one of my first notes on this song was to mention that, and I don't know if it had any real influence or if they were at least familiar with the game and maybe just kind of took the name and Stu came up with his own story around an altered beast kind of creature.
There are no direct references to the game either in the lyrics or in any interviews that I've found, but the noisy scuzziness of this whole suite almost, whether intentionally or unintentionally, kind of seems to evoke that old arcade video game feel or aesthetic.
Yeah, it could. And on top of that being an arcade game, it was actually a version of it that I believe was packed in as a game that came with the Sega Genesis console. And so it was a game that was very popular, that a lot of people had because it came with the system a lot of the times. And I actually read a little bit because I've never played it. And I'm surprised because I have a bit of a history with playing a lot of classic video games. I have a bunch of retro consoles and stuff. I used to collect that stuff pretty hardcore. And I might even own a copy of the game. I don't even know. Maybe I don't. But anyway, I just pulled this little description from Wiki just to say what the game is in case there's any relation, but it doesn't really seem like it. The game follows a Roman centurion who is resurrected by the Olympian god Zeus to rescue his daughter Athena from Neph, the demonic ruler of the underworld. By collecting 3 power-ups in a level, the player can transform into one of 5 mythical beasts. So he's a good guy altered beast in that game. Like, he turns into this monstrous beast to, take out enemies and save Athena. But yeah, I don't really see the connection because I don't think that's so much the case on this album.
Yeah, no, this is
Altered
not a good
Beast
guy
is not
altered
great.
beast in this album.
No.
Instrumentally, just some really cool touches here. About 109, there's some wah guitar that works its way into the mix. That's probably Joey on that. Maybe Stu, who knows? I don't think we have kind of the track by track breakdown of all the personnel here.
Yeah.
But there's just such this cool kind of metal, kind of not, kind of prog, kind of not. See, this is why it's just so hard to put Giz into a box, genre-wise. But this really is what you're getting on this suite. This hard-driving sound with influences pulled from a variety of genres. You get some of the prog and some of the metal, but it's really not any one thing at a time.
Yeah. This first song will introduce us to a bunch of the motifs that are going to reappear throughout this entire suite. There's that kind of main guitar riff with the really crazy bends. It just keeps going. So that's really cool kind of unique thing. I really love that off-kilter rhythm that starts at 1:29 and continues to pop up throughout the suite. It's the drum. I don't know how to really emulate it with my mouth over the audio format here, but I'm sure I'll put a little clip of the moment I'm talking about here.
With an unsteady gait, the critter moves forth. You feel his rhythm as he tramples the earth.
So this first chapter here, Altered Beast 1, is essentially just our protagonist talking about the creature he sees, describing it as half man and half bear, and he sounds equal parts horrified and also curious about the beast.
Yeah.
He says, "I think I see an altered beast in my dreams." And then the narration follows, "In a dream, you can wake in your bed without pain, but know with conviction it's here you'll remain." So I love the connection of saying dreams and the singing, and then really quick she comes in a dream, and follows it up with that. Here's a little bit bigger of a chunk of narration that will describe and set some things up. With an unsteady gait, the critter moves forth. You feel his rhythm as he tramples the earth, and you stare at his figure, stupefied in dread, as his gaze locks to yours and bores into your head. And the pulse is so loud on the inside of your brain, and you find that your feet are stuck to the terrain. Closer he comes, making dust out of stone. Forsaken you are, and what's more, all alone. So, God, really good writing, just really, really good writing. And again, Stu wrote all of it, so I don't know if maybe Leah had any input in sort of some of the phrasing of some things or not, but Stu wrote this story, and it's It's really well written. Again, very fantastical, very sci-fi, but also super horror, at least in this section of the album.
Yeah.
And this guy is just basically completely frozen with fear as the beast approaches. He can't move or do anything to get away. And, he's just locked in, and it's like the beast already has him in a trance of some kind. He can't move.
Yeah, and adding to kind of the old-fashioned mysticism and mystique of this, I don't think it's any perfect meter at any time in this track in the narration, but it kind of evokes that old iambic pentameter near the end, like the forsaken you are, and what's more, all alone. That rhyme with closer he comes making dust out of stone.
Yeah,
Forsaken you are, and what's more, all alone.
Yeah.
It's like one of those medieval pieces of poetry or something.
There's a lot of them that fit in really nicely like that. And then there's some other ones where they kind of, deviate a little bit with the structure and the flow.
I think they go a little more tongue in cheek without being openly goofy. There's a line later specifically that I want to touch on when we get to it. But yeah, they just do such a good job of building the darkness, the horror, and like you said, at the same time, that curiosity, that morbid curiosity.
Oh yeah, and that's gonna get our guy into some trouble, I believe. What do you say we move on to Alter Me?
Let's do it. Alter Me 1.
For all its revulsion and warp and taboo, a part of you wants to be altered too.
Okay, so this is the first of the Alter Me's. This is kind of the back and forth that happens for several tracks, where we have Altered Beast and Altered Me all numbered. Alter Me 1 is very short, only about 45 seconds long, but it just kind of helps give you the other side of the story and kind of set up what Alter Me means and what those kind of tracks are going to be as far as the story goes. The first bit of narration here: for all its revulsion and warp and taboo, a part of you wants to be altered too. So that's where the curiosity comes in. This guy is like locked in fear, but at the same time, he's like, what if I could be a sick-ass monster like that too?
Yeah.
I guess. The song just pretty much tells us very directly that, despite how terrified the guy is, he can't help but also want to be a big, powerful beast like this thing. And aside from the narration, the only lyrics are just Altered Beast, Alter Me. Stu doesn't sing anything else in the track. The narration kind of takes the main role here of moving the story along and kind of letting you know where this guy's mind's at and what's going on.
Yeah, so this is kind of the first twist of the story where you did kind of hear that hint of curiosity in the first track, as we mentioned. Here it's now clear by Leah's narration that a part of you wants to be altered too. Like, I can't help but desire this creepy darkness and have it take over me. I enjoy Stu's expression on the way that he practically screams "alter me" in the second time through each stanza of it. Alter me! It's almost like he's taking the beast by the shoulders and shaking it like, alter me, damn it! And instrumentally, for such a short track, there are some additional cool touches. At about 18 seconds, there's a hint back at Nonagon. And in my re-listen through this album for the research that I did, this was kind of the beginning of where I realized, okay, so there's a lot more Nonagon tie-in, like sonically, that I remember. There's that distorted harmonica from Ambrose and a guitar strike kind of simultaneously, followed by the signature Gizzy guitar reverb.
Crazy big harmonica blares where he just screams into it.
And then at 27 seconds, Stu's vocals sound slightly muffled when he does that second and final iteration of the refrain, Altered Beast, Alter Me. It's almost like at this point the protagonist is starting to be consumed by this newfound desire.
Yeah. So that's about it for that track. That's a really short one, so next we can go right into Altered Beast 2.
The thing that I lust for and the thing that I'll get is to take over your body and to be in your head.
I see you. I want to rain your head. Rusty red.
So as the track smoothly transitions here into Altered Beast 2, you feel an escalation of sorts as you feel the story kind of advancing, and you, as the listener, are on the edge of your seat wondering what's going to happen next. We'll hear a lot of new sounds on this track compared to what we've heard before, and it's not just a straight reprise of Altered Beast 1. You're going to hear some new parts instrumentally, some different bits of narration and the lyrics. From my perspective on this, Joe, I'm curious your kind of interpretation of this. It basically seems that Leah assumes the role or perspective of the altered beast here. Because we were talking earlier in this show about how Leah's perspective kind of changes, or her role kind of changes on the album.
Yeah.
And I think that's, if I'm not mistaken, that's the beginning of where this happens, where she says like lines like, "I am the saber, the catapult, the bat." So now she is the beast, like for narrator's sake.
Yeah, that seems to be the case. Like we said, it kind of, the perspective changes a bit throughout, not just across the whole album, but even within the individual suites and sections themselves, like this one. But to just go ahead and, since I have the whole thing written here, I'll just read that whole narration section. So she starts with, "And now, dear listener, we cross to the foe with the weapons and heavy cargo." And then here's where it switches to kind of being from the beast perspective. "I am the saber, the catapult and bat, the top of the food chain in my habitat. I am the demon bearing misery and fear, and I spy you convulsing from way over here. I could pull you apart or I could cut you to pieces. I could make you bleed crimson tears from the lesions. But the thing that I lust for and the thing that I'll get is to take over your body and to be in your head."
What?
Wait, what? Yeah, so that's when it, it's saying all this stuff about how it could rip you apart, it could eat you, it's the top of the food chain, this and that. But more than anything, it wants to just take you over, take control of your mind and body, and possibly even scarier than the idea of being ripped apart and eaten is being controlled, not, being alive but not having control of your mind and body anymore.
Yeah,
is quite spooky. So yeah, that's kind of where this is going. The protagonist, I guess if you want to call him that, is like kind of curious about it and also maybe wants to be altered. And this beast certainly wants to alter this guy. So I can only see one place this is going.
The part at 30 seconds into the track where Leah kind of concludes that part of the narration, to take over your body and to be in your head, you'll notice that Leah's voice moves way up to the front of the mix after being a little bit buried among the layers before. And so it's almost like that was the process of, ooh, now I'm in your head.
Yeah.
And that sent chills up my spine, dude. That was crazy.
The lyrics that are sung by Stu in this track also continue from the perspective of the beast as well, just like Leah's narration did this time around. There's lines that I like, such as, "I want to break your head, crusty bread," likening his skull to, being something as easy as one of us, like breaking open a roll to eat or something. It's like, I could just break your head open and jump in. And I also love how he hits the line, "I'd like to put it in my head." To put his head in his head, I guess. Just love how he gets this like kind of slimy, crazy voice.
I'd like to put it in my head.
So I just want to touch on a couple of really cool instrumental parts here. 49 seconds, another Nonagon-esque moment with the pounding drums, repeated guitar chords, and that overdriven kind of peaking overdrive that emulates the guitar. The harmonica does. It's just that it reminds me of Gamma Knife, I think. Like the Gamma Knife. I think that's what that's reminding me of.
And the drums are going absolutely crazy, like really fast rolls on the snare and toms and stuff.
Kind of like Cap's drum
and
fills
the harmonica is like
there.
It's like honking along like a train horn or like some kind of alarm or something. Ugh.
And then at 146, one of my favorite parts in the entire suite, the call and response between that dirty guitar and the overdriven harmonica.
Yeah.
Damn.
So satisfying, so fun.
And then immediately followed up by at 157, there's like this gurgling, swirling vocal synthesizer effect. "Tell me, would you honestly?" And it sounds like Stu's voice is almost like he's gurgling like water, like he's drowning in the creek that's
really
on the
cool
scene.
Effect, yeah.
It's so cool.
So just to finish off this track with a few more bits of narration that I want to read. "To me you are game, just a sweet bit of meat. Come closer and drink malevolence from my teat." That is such a... Wow, that is such an image.
Yeah.
Also followed by What harm could a mere mortal like you do? I am the golden wolf, and you are caribou. My left hand is a knife, and my right is a fork. I will pull you apart like a butcher pulls pork.
That was the line I was referring to earlier. One of those ones that kind of takes you out of it, and you're like, wait a minute, what? That was kind of funny.
yeah. There's something that one just always stood out to me. It's like maybe my favorite line in this whole suite from the narration. Just, I will pull you apart like a butcher pulls pork is so satisfying. And then just to finish off, the last line I wrote down here is, I see you are nervous. I see you are fumbling. Come hither, my friend. My stomach is rumbling. So it's a little confusing because it's like, is the beast going to eat this dude after all? Or does he want to just control his mind and body like he was saying? You know, that's like, my stomach is rumbling and I could pull you apart like pulled pork. It's like,
it's confusing. I mean, it really is an altered beast. Like, this beast is so confused it doesn't know what it wants.
Doesn't even know what to do. Yeah, it's hungry, but it's also it just can't make up its mind.
Before we move on, real quick, caribou. Remember we talked about caribou on Polygon Dwanaland? One of the few animal species that can see the fourth color.
Tetrachromacy.
I am the golden wolf, and you are caribou. This was the same year that Polygon Dwanaland came out. Is this another Gizverse confirmed mind-exploding moment? A reach, you think?
I don't know. It could be a reference, because caribou seems like a weird thing to come up in two songs in the same year.
Yeah.
Not the same album, but two different songs from the same year that may or may not, have other connections or references between them. I don't know.
Or maybe it's just the fact that caribou is a more gentle animal that might be preyed upon by a golden wolf.
Yeah, it's a prey animal by, maybe some other bigger predators like that.
Yeah. Okay, typical us, typical Giz fans reading too much into lyrics.
Yeah.
All right, so we're roaring right along here in the Altered Beast suite, and we move right along to track 5 at this point, Alter Me 2.
Your dumb human head is full of naivety. Your impending fate is to be one with me.
This is another really short track, slightly longer than the first Alter Me, however. The lyrics are once again entirely Altered Beast, Alter Me, with the exception of the narration, which includes the line, Your dumb human head is full of naivety. Your impending fate is to be one with me. And then at the end, we also get, Now we cross to our friend on the monster's plate. In time, he will turn and reincarnate. So this is just continuing that transition. It's like, okay, this guy has no idea how dumb he is, what he's getting into here. But, his fate is to be one with him, one with the beast, and become an altered beast. And reincarnate as this new monster and leave his humanity behind.
Yeah, so overall, not a ton of new stuff here other than the kind of 2 points of narration that you mentioned that kind of hammer home the advancement of the narrative. I didn't want to skip over, though, the ending of the last track that leads into this one, where there's kind of that full band halt, then the ride bell, and then that full band blast of fury ends Altered Beast 2. This track then begins with this Cavs fill. That stuck out as special to me, I think, because for some reason it screamed to me like, at the end of the day, these dudes are still a goofy-ass rock band.
Yeah.
They're playing this mystical, crazy, cool shit, but at the end of the day, this is some rock drummer just ba-da-da-da-da. He could be playing that drum fill in the middle of something totally not mystical at all.
Yeah, he does that drum fill, and then it's actually a pretty, just steady, a little more chill kind of beat that follows with some palm muted guitar and just kind of lets the narration and stuff breathe a bit.
Yeah, you get a short bass and drums kind of groove in this one about halfway through. It does kind of mellow things out a little bit, approximately midway through the suite. Good palate cleanser.
One other thing that stood out to me, and I forgot to write this down, but I just remembered it, right kind of after the narration starts, there's this kind of squealing synthesizer that flails around all over the place a little bit. And to me, I swear to God, it sounds just like a sound effect that Boo from one of the Mario games makes. I don't know if it's maybe Mario Kart or maybe Mario 64. I'm trying to remember exactly, but I swear it sounds like Boo. Okay, I just tried looking it up. I think it's kind of reminding me a little bit of Boo's laugh from Mario 64, but it's a lot longer and kind of goes around all over with the pitch there. But I don't know. For some reason, that's all I can picture in my head when I hear it.
Let's go.
All right, moving right along. Let's go on to the next Altered Beast. This is Altered Beast 3.
I know I see an altered beast by the tree. Oh!
As if there were any uncertainty remaining at this point, Stu now knows he sees an altered beast. He doesn't just think he sees, he knows he sees it. And this is where I think it takes a little bit of a further turn into like the, I don't know, maybe a little bit of dread, but also a little bit of acceptance. Like, okay, yeah, this is happening. This isn't just a dream. Like,
Yeah.
I'm kind of fucked, or I'm kind of like, or maybe I'm going to enjoy a little part of it deep down inside. But either way, there is kind of an acceptance, however grim, that, all right, this is happening.
Yep.
Oh my God, okay, it's happening, everybody.
This is happening. Yeah, this is the shortest of the Altered Beast variants, and this is the part of the story where, yeah, the man truly begins to take on this altered form. We have the line in the lyrics, 9 white teeth, my gums bequeathed. So that's now Stu now singing again from the perspective of this guy and saying, he's got these fangs popping up. He's starting to transform. He's noticing these changes happen. We also have the line, hair on my skin, and I'm feeling beastly. Feel it trickle in, a new life with me. So again, just taking some acknowledgement of he's growing hair. It's almost like a werewolf transformation type thing. Hair's, growing over his body. He's got these fangs pop out. In fact, the narration actually says, 9 pearl fangs, a true sign that you're deformed. Once a man, now a monstrosity reborn. There's no turning back at this point. This is it. This is the real transformation happening now in this track.
And I like that in that 9 white teeth section, there's some layered vocals from Stu, like kind of multi-tracked, and it's almost like he's singing a round or a canon with himself. 9 white teeth,
Yeah,
and the other voices, the other tracks in the background.
Yeah,
really cool and really creepy with the way he sings those backing tracks in. So yeah, of course, Stu would be the badass to provide his own backing vocals to himself. And hold on. 9 white teeth, 9 pearl fangs, 9 nonagon. 9 what?
The number 9. Gizzard.
I don't know ultimately what meaning that has, maybe other than just like tying it in. Oh yeah, 9 like nonagon.
Yeah,
and literally no more than that.
Yeah, probably. It just worked well for the lyrics. The word, the number 9, and the rhyme there.
Some more of course cool instrumental parts at a minute 8. That big screech where the guitar wails, and then back to that
where everything
original
stops and you just hear like the squealing guitar for a second.
Yeah, and then that original Altered Beast riff
so
returns.
Sick.
At 1 minute 28 seconds, there's that slow, sludgy doom section. I see you. I can see right through. We've almost got that low register down. Almost.
9 pearl fangs, a true sign that you're deformed. Once a man, now a monstrosity reborn.
So basically, just that the transformation occurs and it's ghastly, and at the very end of this track, it becomes I am an altered beast. Not I think I see, not I know I see, I am an altered beast. Transformation complete, so that's the end of the story, right? Wrong! Alter Me 3.
No more consternation, no longer insalubrious. The beast DNA has dug into your nucleus.
I really like how this one starts out a little softer, kind of gives you a little bit of a break after the big sludgy ending of the last track. We've got more of that Mellotron melody right at the beginning and some layers of synthesizers with just kind of a steady drum groove and immediate narration from Leah right at the top of this track, which starts with the line, no more consternation, no longer insalubrious. The beast DNA has dug into your nucleus. So, Spencer, I didn't write the definitions down for this one. I have a bunch later, but go ahead and define those words there.
Yeah, if you're a new listener to this album, you're like, no longer what? No what?
No what and huh?
We've got you covered here on Polygon Infinity, no worries. Consternation is amazement or dismay that hinders or throws one into confusion. So, kind of a fancy way of saying confusion or discombobulation,
Yeah.
maybe. And then insalubrious means not conducive to health, unwholesome, or toxic. So thank you, Merriam-Webster, for both of those definitions. So insalubrious, I guess, this thing's like I just said, toxic, kind of sick, sickly.
But it's no
ill,
longer insalubrious,
whatever.
so it's
But yeah, no longer. So I guess the transformation has become more like whole, like more stable.
It's taken hold, like she said. It's dug into your nucleus. It's like become a part of you now. It's stable. It's not making you sick or anything.
Yeah.
It's just
because presumably during the transition there was some difficulty and some discomfort for sure. But now the transformation is complete. It's like, okay, yep, I am what I am now.
Yeah.
Fuck you, I'm going to come and get you and create another altered beast.
Yeah. One thing I want to mention, not just about the song itself, but a performance of this song. On the KGLW.net history page for this track, there is a link to the band playing this song and the next track, Altered Beast 4, back-to-back live in Philadelphia with Leah Sr. narrating live, and this was the very first Giz show I ever attended. It was really cool to see that pop up. I'm like, oh my god, I was there. My first ever Giz show in October of 22, and I've mentioned this before, but at the time, I wasn't as deep into their discography. I was kind of new to them. I had a handful of albums that I really liked that I had spent some time with. This album I hadn't listened to all of. I was familiar with it for reasons I'll mention later. There may have been one particular song that I heard a bunch without the context of the rest of the album. But yeah, so I feel like I didn't fully appreciate how fucking cool and sick that was at the time. And now going back and watching videos, I'm like, this is just awesome. This is so cool that I was there for that. But, at least current me can, appreciate it and just kind of put myself back there and still appreciate what a cool experience that was. To have her on stage narrating a bunch of the stuff from this album is just so cool.
Yeah, and I remember when you were first getting me into the band and you talked about going to this show, and you said, oh yeah, so we went through like the set list. We went on either KGLW.net or looked at Setlist FM maybe at that time before we kind of got crazy deep, the two of us. And we kind of looked back and I said, oh, wow, Lucky, you got this song and that song. There was, of course, at that time, a lot of Murder the Universe in their regular set list. And then he said, yeah, I remember this gal from the opening band went on stage and rejoined them to do the narration. And you later found out, oh, that was Lee
That was
Senior.
actually her from the album, yeah.
And you can see, as you said, on the history page for this on KGLW.net, there is that thumbnail of the video on YouTube where Leah's up against the mic, just this very solemn, serious expression on her face. Her hands are clasped behind her back with Ambrose in the background playing the synthesizer.
Yep, he's right behind her.
And Leah's just providing her narration in this calm, cool, and collected manner.
She's got a little music stand in front of her with the lyrics, I guess, to read off of.
Yeah.
Because this would be hard to memorize. I mean, this is
no chance.
dense with, heavy vocabulary and whatnot, so...
I will say, without giving away any of my favorites necessarily from this album, we're a long ways to go before that. At about 38 seconds into this track, there's a harmonica lick from Ambrose, and then this brief bassy synth groove that I think you may have alluded to already. There's a and I was at the gym re-listening to this the other day, and I kind of took a break on my stretching mat, and I was kind of shaking and jamming along to that part, like, oh, this is a vibe, dude.
48 seconds in, you get this soft start of a build-up with the repetition of Altered Beast, Alter Me, and the synths and the harmonica there just kind of honking along in sync with one another until the drums rise back up and the song just explodes into a bunch of guitar noise and screaming harmonica and all of that.
Altered beast, alter me, altered beast, alter me.
That leads right into the final Altered Beast track, which is Altered Beast 4.
You don't feel a thing in your sinuous head. No love, no pain, and no fear of dread. Your apathetic dispassion has made you distort, and your savoir-faire is to kill for sport.
So, we've arrived to the longest track on the album, 5 minutes, 10 seconds, which in Giz terms is really not that long.
Yep.
But they keep things kind of snappy and kind of moving along in this suite. You've reached the end of the cul-de-sac, says Leah Sr. here on this track, and indeed, this is kind of the end of the journey for this newfound altered beast. I think I see an altered beast inside me, says Stu, also on this track. This really is the end of the road, the end of the narrative. There's literally nowhere to go from here.
I have seen this song played live twice, both at my very first Giz show in Philly in 2022 that I just mentioned during the last track, and the last Giz show that we both attended together, which was Forest Hills last summer.
Yep.
Every single time they have played this song live before that show, it was preceded by Alter Me 3. That was like the way they always did it, was those two songs together, which makes sense. However, the Forest Hills show we were at was the first time, according to KGLW.net, from the history of how many times it's, all the times it's been played live, they just threw this one in on its own between two totally unrelated songs, which in this case was Let Me Mend the Past before it, and then Ambergris after it. Like, it couldn't be more different.
That was a funky block of songs that we got at that part of that show.
Yeah.
But, songs that we loved very much.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, such disparate Let Me Mend the Past, Ambrose crooning to that kind of R&B type hit. And then, yeah, Ambergris, that ode to the 1970s slinky, sexy funkiness with this in between.
Yeah.
Giz in a nutshell.
Wild, yeah. Some narration from Leah here that I'd like to read. You don't feel a thing in your sinuous head. No love, no pain, and no fear of dread. Your apathetic dispassion has made you distort, and your savoir-faire is to kill for sport. I had to make a note of this. Savoir-faire literally translates from French to know-how, and it usually refers to a person's intuitive ability to say or do the right thing in a social situation. So it's kind of being flipped in an interesting way here. Your savoir-faire, your know-how is to kill for sport. You'd wound a small creature and watch it wiggle, and lust to feel so bad that you'd force a giggle. So crooked and curled is your point of view, there is no other creature more malicious than you. So yeah, The full transformation is complete. You're officially just a horrific altered beast, a killer monster, and nothing more, no humanity left.
And so this is the point where Stu begins singing, I'm completely satisfied, in that kind of staccato rhythm.
Yeah, along with that kind of interesting rhythm I mentioned earlier, that dun 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 dun.
Yeah,
dun, dun.
And there's a little bit of that palm-muted guitar underneath throughout this track, too. It actually opens up, this track does, on that dun 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 dun.
Yeah, so
and
sick.
Eventually, Stu moves on lyrically to an altered beast until I die, and I will not give up on this. Never! Guitars squeal again.
Yep.
And then the lyrics continue. True, I went to hell and back, but it was so I could be this, an altered beast until the end. And repeats, I will not give up on this, never. And probably my favorite part of the song, I don't feel heinous, I don't feel no pain, I don't feel nothing, I don't feel anything. And repeats it. I just like the monotonous delivery of that. I don't feel nothing. It's so appropriate for the emotion.
Yeah.
I don't feel anything. I've got no intuition. I have no sense of right or wrong. I'm just a hungry beast.
I don't feel heinous, I don't feel no pain, I don't feel nothing, I don't feel anything, I don't feel heinous, I don't feel no pain, I don't feel nothing, I don't feel anything, oh, just beast with me.
Yeah, I love how tricky that rhythm is. It took me some time to get to the point where I could, like, memorize the words in the right place and kind of sing along, or if you even call it singing, it's kind of like talk singing, that part of it.
Yeah.
I don't feel heinous, I don't feel no pain, I don't. Yeah, it's really fun and satisfying to follow along with once you get the hang of it. The protagonist, I guess, like I said earlier, I'm like, I guess he's a protagonist, I don't know, but the guy that gets transformed, our new beast here, has seemingly no regrets about his decision to become an altered beast, if even it was his decision to begin with. Not really, but he wanted it, so insisting that he has no regrets, and like you said, the I will not give up on this, never.
It obviously does make you wonder if he is truly satisfied, or more likely, in my opinion, like if he's just justifying it to himself, like, okay, yep, this is what I want, and just like embracing it in kind of a false way of just like, yeah, I asked for it, I know this is what I wanted all along.
Right.
Even though deep down, there's definitely some regret.
Yeah, there might his feelings might change a little bit pretty quickly. The narration continues. You're ruthless and savage and sadistic and vindictive, and you find human flesh is incredibly addictive. But the longer you live and the longer you kill, there's a void that gets harder and harder to fill. The void that you feel within would suggest that a canyon has opened up inside of your chest, and whatever you do, there's no turning back. You've reached the end of the cul-de-sac.
There it is.
So, yeah, this is like kind of the thing where it's like, all right, you might think you have no regrets, but you feel this emptiness inside of him. There's this void because at this point he's empty. He's devoid of any emotion or like regular conscious thought or morality or anything. He's just a killer predator animal basically at this point.
Yeah.
That's incapable of any of that deeper feeling or emotion. And the final narration on the track that kind of finishes that off is, the sole thing that will make your void obsolete is to find someone new, some sapid fresh meat.
So the streak just continues.
Yeah.
It's just like this continuous vicious cycle of, okay, new altered
Yeah.
beast. Wake up, babe. New altered beast just dropped.
Yep. Yeah.
Now this altered beast needs to go infect someone else.
Right.
Right.
It's the only thing that will make him feel whole.
Yes.
Is to continue the process, keep going down the line and pass it on to the next person, transform another one into a new altered beast.
One vocab word I had to look up in real time, just real quick, sapid, as you referred to, sapid fresh meat. It means having a strong, pleasant taste.
Yeah.
So kind of adjacent, sort of, kind of, to other words we'll hear later on in the record.
Yeah.
Disgusting, horrifying, but it just rounds out the story in such a fascinating way.
Yeah. One final thing I want to make a note on here is just after the 4-minute mark, everything stops and the instruments ring out, and then there's this drum fill that leads into a new section that includes more repetitions of Altered Beast, Alter Me.
The sole thing that will make your void obsolete is to find someone new, some sapid fresh meat.
Altered beast, alter me.
And I thought, this here, it sounds like it's transitioning into another track, and this is where it should be Alter Me for.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. It's all just part of Altered Beast for, which is really interesting, and I don't know why with this final one they didn't put that in, because that last little minute or so could have been Alter Me for to close it off. For some reason, it's just part of the final Altered Beast for.
Yeah.
And so I have no idea why they didn't split that one up like the others, but I don't know, maybe they just wanted it to end on a track named Altered Beast because he's not asking to be altered anymore, even though it's in the lyrics, but he's already altered.
I think you're onto something though, and my loose theory is here that with Altered Beast, Alter Me being spoken again, is that maybe that's just the next
next
step
victim.
in the chain.
Yeah,
that's the next victim.
That's the next person. It's not this guy anymore. Okay, yeah, maybe that makes sense. Oh, and also one thing that I noticed at the very end of this song, instead of saying, I met an altered beast like he did in other tracks, he says, I am an altered beast. And that's the last thing you hear at the end of this. There's this, final quick shred on the main riff. And then the song closes out.
So that, for all intents and purposes, brings this suite to an end, with the exception, of course, of this little postlude section, track 9 on the album, Life/Death, or Life and Death, whatever you want to call it.
Are you? Are you me? Or someone in between? You lost track inside the labyrinth.
Yeah, so this here is the outro of this first suite on the album. It's just 1 minute long with no singing, just music and narration. Are you? Are you me? Or someone in between? You lost track inside the labyrinthine, which is, I looked that up. I guess it's just another way of saying labyrinth, I guess. You lost your will and your sanity. You certainly lost your humanity. In life, you have taken much more than you're worth. Now it's your turn to give back to the earth.
Uh-oh.
May you return to the ground and ossify. It's time for you to die. Die.
As her pitch gets lower and lower.
Yeah. So, yeah, I guess it's just saying, you've done your fill, and I don't know, you just I don't know. Go die. Just go die.
You're done. This is the end of the story.
Beast, we're done.
Just die.
Your
go
story's
away.
over, so you just go die now.
For another very short track, some really cool sounds. Again, this track is just 59 seconds long, has never been played live, so it ultimately just kind of serves a purpose on the album. Mellotron, first off, hello, right at the beginning, really cool. And I think we've heard the Mellotron prior to this on the album, but not quite at that kind of higher pitch, with some bass and drums accompanying that. And then at 25 seconds where the tape speeds up, and then that terrifying instrumental stab. It sounds like an old horror movie. It sounds like a scream should be accompanying it.
Yeah.
To give back to the earth.
And then if you needed any more assistance, dear listener, for the word ossify, yet another vocab word, it just means to change into an Australian. No, just kidding. To change into a bone.
Not ossify.
Not ossify.
with an O.
Ossify, yep.
Yeah. No. Apparently, it's used to refer to like cartilage solidifying into solid bone, like how babies, kind of have like soft cartilage when they're born, and over time it solidifies into bone.
Yeah.
That's what ossification is. But I think in this case, it's just being used as like, all right, it's time for you to just become a bag of bones in the ground, and your time is up. Yeah, so that's it for the Tale of the Altered Beast. Wonderful, happy story there.
19 minutes, 47 seconds by my count of sheer horror and terror and disgusting shit. But again, a really cool story with some really cool instrumentation.
Alrighty, folks, that's going to do it for part 1 of our Murder of the Universe album discussion. Stay tuned for part 2 coming to your podcast feed next week on Polygon Infinity. Woo! And also the last
Last?
and fuck me. I told you my voice is messed up today.